Howdy. Hello out there. Thanks for joining me for today's Fiddle workshop. If you feel like chiming in the chat window and letting me know where you're watching from, that's always really fun to see. So, hi. I hope it's as beautiful a day where you are as it is here. It's glorious in Nashville. And I have a little tiny bit of a cold today, so I just want to warn you there will be some sniffling and a lot of tea drinking. So I hope you all have cups of tea as well. Hello, Chattanooga. Woo woo. So if you haven't tuned in for one of these workshops before, this is what's going to happen. I'm going to play the tune that we're going to be focusing on today, which is Johnny Come Along from Clyde Davenport in standard tuning. And then I'm going to go through and I'm going to play it in chunks and kind of try to point out stuff that's interesting or challenging in the tune. This one has a lot of really fun little scoopy stuff in the right hand, which I know is something that people are always asking me to home in on. Anything that involves little scoopy things, and this tune is full of them. And so you'll be hopefully out there playing along with me as I go through chunks of the tune slowly and try to get you doing some of those weirder things that are happening in the tune that are fun and interesting. And then after we finish doing some reps of the tune, there will be time for a more general Q&A. And the chat window is really fun. I love the chat window. It makes me so happy to know there are people out there. I'm seeing people in the chat window now. And while we're working on the tune, if I go through a part too quickly or you need more information about something I did, feel free to ask questions or make comments like, could we play that B part a couple more times or whatever. If I'm leaving you in the dust, I'm happy to go back and do some more repetition or get into some more detail. If you have more general questions about old-time fiddling or what I do, you can save those for the more general question time at the end. After this broadcast is done, I will go back in on YouTube and I will create chapters so that when you come back and revisit, if you want to review anything that we covered today, it'll be easy for you to find the parts you're looking for. So if you have attended any of these workshops before, if you go back after and look at the archived broadcast, I always put chapters in so that people can skip over all of my talking because there's always a lot. Wow, we have Madrid, Spain, we have Troy, Vermont, Palo Alto, California, we got New York, West Indies? What? Wow, this is amazing. Maryland and Washington State and Tulsa, Oklahoma. This is amazing. Thank you all so much for being here with me. It just makes this so fun. I'm always kind of thinking I'm gonna shoot videos just to put up online of me teaching something, and maybe it'd be like $5 for me showing you how to do a bowing thing. And I just can't seem to motivate myself to do it because I so much like to know that there are people that I'm interacting with while I'm teaching. I don't know, it's very helpful. So thank you all for being part of the live broadcast. Okay, T. So first I'll just play the tune. Hopefully you've all had a chance to listen to the Clyde Davenport version of this tune, or maybe even watch the very short video I put up online of me playing the tune. Obviously, I'm not Clyde Davenport. I can't do what he does, but I can show you some of the stuff that I do that he did on the recording that I learned it from. So Anyway, that's just my disclaimer. I'm going to show you how I do it, which is, you know, in places it's what Clyde does, and in other places I'm sure it's not. But I just think this is a super fun tune, and once I started thinking about teaching it, I realized how many fun little bowing things there are in it. So I'll just play it through a couple times at a moderate tempo. So that's the tune, and as you can see, lots of fun little things in the right hand. So note that I'm playing the A part 3 times and the B part twice. That's just how we're going to do it. You can do it however you want, but that's how I play the tune. Pretty sure that's how Clyde played the tune. So that's the structure we'll use for it for this workshop anyway. All right, so let's talk about the first little chunk. Let's take small bites. The parts aren't that long, so if I'm really going super slow motion, I think. So when I'm doing that up to speed, there's a little moment where I lift off of the higher string. So I think. Yeah, there's like I release pressure a little bit on the higher string. So this is a very subtle bow move. So you can just play it sort of more flat, like. So you hear what I'm doing there is I'm just playing both strings the whole time. But what I actually do, there are these little moments where I'm kind of lifting off of the higher string. There's like little tiny breaks in there. And I think sometimes I vary that by actually doing it the other way, where I'm coming off of the lower string. So these are the things that I want to try to point out to you that are, well, it's part of where the pulsing comes from, is like something goes away and comes back, or something gets added in somewhere in one of those little moves that it seems like it's just a shuffle, but there's where the emphasis is with the bow changes. And so you can sort of play with that as far as which of those two notes is getting the emphasis. So, whoa. So that's one way to do it that I'm showing you, is to play just the lower string. Wait. right there. So, or you can do just the higher string. So those are just sort of fun little noodly things you can do in this tune. So, really slowly. Even slower. So something to think about here is that you don't have to be playing two strings at the same time where I am. You can play this entire tune just, single notes. So if you're still getting used to doing double stops, there are going to be some little challenging moments in here. But if you're just trying to get the melody, that would be sort of the more skeletal version. If I were trying to simplify it. And another thing to think about here, I know I'm throwing a lot at you from this one first phrase, but I'm going to try to maintain the same bowing as I slow it down and break it down for you. I vary my bowing in this tune, and I think there's a very natural thing that happens of the faster I'm playing it, the more slurs I would tend to put in it. I'm going to try to keep those slurs in it as I slow it down. We can talk about this more later, and if you've done my workshops before, you know I have a very complicated relationship with showing anyone a specific bowing for a tune. So I'm going to try to be consistent with my bowing, not because you have to match it perfectly, and not because it's correct, because there's no such thing, but just as a way into the tune. And if you're trying to expand your right hand vocabulary, if something that I'm doing with the bow seems awkward to you, that's probably a good thing. It's a sign you should try to make your hand do that, because I don't want you to be in a rut with what your right hand can do. That's a roundabout way of saying, take whatever from my bowing you want to, and challenge yourself to try some things that aren't comfortable, but not because it's correct. Okay? And yeah. See, I told you there'd be a lot of talking. So, just that little first phrase again. I think. That's not how I bow it in real life. Hold on. That's what I do. So starting on that next chunk, it'll be one more time, even a little slower. Is that making sense? So if we put those two little bits together, we have let's do that again. One more time on those two chunks together. So now, another thing that happens when you start breaking tunes down into chunks and slowing them down and homing in on specific phrases is you lose track of the whole tune. So I'm going to play the whole A part for you again so you can keep it in your ear and not lose track of what all of these abstract notes add up to. Sorry, I got too far up in my head. I messed that up. But you get the idea. So we so far have... So in reality, I think a lot of the time, the way that I'm getting into this next phrase is like this. So I think it's, I'm doing a little slur from the third to the fourth finger. I think that's what I actually do when I'm not thinking about it. I can't remember, but I think maybe Clyde goes from the open A string. Anyway, I'll try to stick with the way that I do it. So this next bit, starting on an up bow, yeah. So on an up bow, if you want to follow my bowing. I think I'm changing where I'm putting the slurs. I know I said I'd try to be consistent, but throwing you off. Again, just that chunk. Again. Again. One more time. So at the end of that phrase, there's another one of these fun little scoopy things that are going to come up a lot in this tune. So what's happening there is down, up, up. There's no stop in that last up bow. What's happening is you start out that up bow only playing the one note and then you add in the other. Oh, right. And another detail. Another thing that varies for me is how I connect these chunks. So, did you see that? Those are two different ways of getting into this chunk. And now that I'm saying that, I'm feeling like maybe I should have started with the other way because it's maybe less counterintuitive. But these are both ways that I play this tune. So one is to go on an up bow. The other is to separate. So those have slurs on, so if we do the down bow version, where we're coming down on that fourth finger on the down bow, The bowing comes out the same because I add another note to the slur. So we could do this. Or so those are two different ways that I do actually play this tune. Okay, so I feel like I'm throwing a lot of information at you. I hope it's working. I'm not seeing people panicking in the chat window, so I assume that means you're all playing along with me. So let's put all these pieces together very slowly. Even slower than that. Again. In the bowing. I'll try that one again with you. Okay, I hope that's hanging together. Still nothing, no people are screaming and panicking. So great. So let's play that part through a few times, moderate tempo, so not quite so painfully slow as I just did it. And I'm doing this not because you should have every detail already, but because every time we play it, you're going to pick up more, and you can always come back and do this again. So. Working? Let's do that again. So that was 3 times through the A part, I believe. So normally we go the B part there. Let's do that again. Okay, so time for a sip of tea. Thank you to Sound and Fury and Justin May for letting me know everything's okay out there. Sometimes I need a little affirmation. All right, so getting into the B part is slightly funny. Before teaching this, I was listening to Clyde Davenport's version through the Amazing Slowdowner, and even listening to it on there, it's sort of like, how did he get there? How is he getting into the B part? So I'll just play the tune, the whole tune for you again. I'm doing this is basically so I'm landing on this little G chord, which is the first finger on the A string, the second finger on the E string. But I'm getting to it by playing the open A and that B note, and then landing on the two together. So this is how I'm getting into the B part, which I think is pretty close to what Clyde does. So and this is another spot where you have options. Sometimes I do that, a little scoopy thing to create a little rhythmic pulse. Sometimes I do that. And sort of melodically add that little rhythmic punctuation. I think those are both things that Clyde does as well. So that's one way. So what you're hearing there, my left hand isn't moving. That's again the same bow move that we had at the end of the A part phrase. It's down, up, where on the down bow you're playing the two notes together, and then on the up bow you lift off of the higher string just at the beginning of that bow stroke and then land on both of them. So that's that. Or which you can keep that double stop going while you hit that third finger. I just generally don't. When I'm doing that, I do this. So that's how I'm doing that little chunk. So let's bite off that whole bit. So I'm going to do that in really slow motion, and let's go with the melodic punctuation instead of the scoopy thing for right now. So I'm going to do that really slowly a couple of times. One more time. So this is again another one of those scoopy things, just on a different chord. So when you see these little wiggly bits that are going on in my right hand, that's not just me wiggling around. Like each one of those is either a down or an up. And I'm either adding in or dropping out one string or the other. So and in addition to the actual sort of what I call scoopy things, where you're taking out and then adding back in the higher string of the two, in addition to that, and I'm sorry for repeating myself for those of you who've done this before, but this is something that I have to harp on. Within each one of those downs and ups is its own, each bow stroke has its own little dynamic. So another one of the wiggly things you're seeing is in my hand is even in places where I'm just playing a single note on a single string, there's an emphasis in the bow stroke. So there's a woom that happens within every single bow stroke. So this is another part of the whole of how rhythmic pulse happens in old-time fiddling, is that none of these bow strokes are just like a static down or up. Everything's sort of a down, up. Everything has a dynamic. So somewhere in that bow stroke, there's a moment where you're digging in more than another place in the bow stroke. And how that works is dependent on how you feel the tune rhythmically and and how you use the bow mechanically. But I think it's important, even if you're a beginner and you're like still just trying to make a nice sound come out with the bow, to sort of have that in mind, that there's a depth to the way that the bow is being used, and there are dynamics going on in there that it's just nothing is just down or just up. Everything has some other dynamic going on inside of it. So so in this part, you hear that? So each one of those bow strokes, there's a point of emphasis. And so that's just like layers of information that you can peel back as you get more comfy with the tune. So that next chunk sort of sounds like there's a lot going on, but it's actually pretty straightforward. However, rhythmically, it's kind of wiggly. So there's a little syncopation in there. And the little scoopy thing at the end. So I'm going to do that really slowly, but keep in mind, going this slowly makes the rhythmic emphasis feel really weird and confusing. So I'll go back to playing the whole tune for you in a moment so you can keep it in context. Slower. Again at that speed. One more time. Okay, so let's try putting those two chunks together. Let's do that again a couple more times. Again. I just realized as I was doing that I was doing the scoopy version of the beginning of the phrase, so I'll do the other version. And note how weird my slurs are as this phrase goes on. It doesn't seem very logical to me, but I think that is what I do. So the whole B part sounds like this. So we've got quite a bit of that. So the next bit is so that's the second finger on the A against the open E. So just the single notes. That again. Okay, and again, this is a spot that's rhythmically really fun and cool, and when I slow it down, it sounds like nonsense. So this is all stuff you have to kind of piece back together as you are speeding this tune up on your own. And I will try to point out those cool rhythmic bits. But for now, we're just going to let it feel kind of nonsensical rhythmically. One more time. And then the next bit is, I think I do a similar thing as I was pointing out earlier, where it could be the open A, but I think I usually use the third. So putting that whole bit together, single notes. Or that's a better way to go, just for being coherent right now. So let's try that from the open A to that E note. So that exact same thing again that I just did. So do that again. I'm going to add in more strings. I really love the sound of a unison, so that fourth finger against the open E, that's something I love, and I lean into that for sure. So let's glue the whole B part together. You remember the rest of it? We'll see if I do. that's hanging together. I need a sip of tea. I have multiple mugs of tea over here. This one I think is the ginger. So as far as all the chunks of the tune, we've got them all now. So it's going to be a matter of gluing them back together. And when I was talking about how that last chunk of the beat part was going to become abstract and ridiculous, the reason it feels so weird just doing it as a chunk is because in that phrase you're anticipating the downbeat. So you're playing the note before the beat comes, and so it just sort of feels all squishy and weird when it's taken out of context. So I guess I'll just play the whole tune for you slowly, and think about that thing of like places where you're anticipating the beat a little bit or kind of playing with syncopation in the phrasing of the tune, because that's the stuff that makes it danceable and makes it fun. So you don't, just because we've broken it down into chunks, you don't want to play it all squared off. So please, please don't play it all squared off. So I'm going to play through the whole tune at a moderate tempo. If you're comfy playing along, please do. I sped that up. Sorry about that if I did. Are there any questions in this tune? Is there something that I glossed over that you need more detail on? Anyone? Anyone? We'll play it through more. Don't worry, we're not done with the repetition. I love how you guys are talking about wiggles and scoopies in the chat window. Wiggly sticks. I was talking about like what's going on when my hand is wiggling around, because I have encountered at times people who like see the motion and want to imitate the motion in my hand without sort of trying to figure out why my hand is doing that, if that makes sense. So I want to make sure there's an ant on the camera. Wait, let me move that. That's really funny. I didn't get him, so he may wander across there. So that's why I was explaining like why my hand is wiggling for a reason. It's not just willy-nilly. And you can make the sounds I'm making, if you want to make them, without moving your hand in exactly the same way that I do. I have a playlist on my YouTube channel that's, I can't remember what it's called, like fiddle class fun or something like that. There was something that I put together, maybe I was teaching at the Swananoa gathering or something, and we were talking about bowing in general and how varied people's bowings are. And so I made this playlist to show like all the different approaches, like how different people can look while using the bow and creating really great driving old time tunes. There is no one way to do it, and there's no one correct thing that's, it's always going to be idiosyncratic. It's folk music. And so don't be discouraged if you are trying to match my bowing and your bow arm doesn't look like mine. Nobody's bow arm looks like anyone else's bow arm. Everybody has their own approach. And what your right hand looks like really is not important. What's important is the sound you're making. And there are a lot of different ways to get at that. So anyway, I guess that's my motivational speech for now. Well, I'm not getting any comments about any specific moments in the tune. So how about we just play the tune? Oh wait, one just showed up. Are you ending both parts on an up bow pulse? I believe so. Yeah, so that one does, and then yeah. So I don't really call it a pulse because I feel like this is just a semantics thing of like, I feel like when you say pulse, people think you have to stop the bow, and my bow never stops. Never stops. So that's why I call it a scoopy thing, is because that rhythmic pulse that you're hearing is being made by emphasis with the bow. So there's, I don't know, slight difference in the language that I use about that. But the pulse is being created by the scoopy thing, if that makes sense. On the high E in the B part, I think I know what you're talking about, Paul, about there's like a little slide. I think he does a little slide in the left hand, and I would have to go back and listen again, but I think he might do a little bit of a. So this, I was talking about how much I love this unison. I tend to do slurry things, like that's a slur. So I'm not actually sliding my finger. I'm slurring from the third finger to the fourth. It's just really quick and subtle. But I think Clyde might actually slide his fourth finger up. He might also do a little slide on that G note. Maybe. It's whatever it is, it's pretty subtle. And I'm just not I don't tend to do slidey things on the fiddle very much. But there is something, I know you're right, there's at least one slippery moment in that B part, the way that Clyde does it. So, I guess, a bit slidey, Clydey. Yes, Clyde is more slippery than me. So I don't know if that's helpful, but yeah, I think he does do some little tiny slidey things, and probably is like not quite, he's probably doing that cool old guy thing of like not quite getting up to the note, like just sort of being just under it a little bit. Okay, have a request for more bowing detail on that second part of the B part. So I'll do that. I guess this part. I think that's what I do. I think. So 3-note slur on that up bow. I think that's what I do. Again, a lot of different ways to do that. And I know that I vary my bowing a lot in this tune. So where those slurs end up being and where the separated bows end up being is going to vary, both because it's nice to sort of vary the rhythmic phrasing and also depending on how quickly I'm playing the tune. If it's fast, I'll probably have fewer separated bow strokes. Oh, the last part of the first bit. Let's see. Oh, that's something I'm not sure I showed you. I just caught something else. Maybe that's something I do when I'm playing it more quickly. There's a slur I do that crosses the strings there. So slowly there. I think that's what I do in that part. Does that help? Hope so. With the A on the E string, I think that so that's that third finger, or it could be a slur. So the thing is, I'm always sort of the important landing point as far as what I'm doing with the bow there is that just that last little scoopy thing that's sort of the period at the end of the sentence. Everything else you can vary a lot. You can change where the slurs land and where you separate the bows. But as long as you're ending that phrase and you're ready to start the next phrase on a down bow, you're rocking. So I hope that's what you're asking about. Okay, let's play the whole tune through a couple of times, and then we can have a more general Q&A if folks have cues for me to A. So, not too slow, not too fast, I hope. This will be a friendly tempo. times through, wasn't it? So coming back to Heidi's question about the A on the E string, I was realizing as I was playing it just now that that A is, as sometimes happens in these tunes, it's like almost subliminal. It goes by so quickly when you're playing the tune up to speed. It goes by so fast that I can see how that would be confusing. It's like, is that note there or is it not there? In reality, it doesn't have to be there. It could be either the open A. So that's going from the open A to the fourth finger. Or it could be just 2 fourth fingers. But what I'm doing is, but it goes by so quickly in the phrase. So, did you catch it? It's like, yeah, it's sort of a subliminal note. So it's barely there. So anyway, take your pick, Heidi. You can put it in or not. Maybe you want a different note, or maybe, I don't know. But it is there, the way that I play it, but it's kind of barely there. So, how's it feeling? I hope you've got everything you need to run off and play this tune. As usual, I will reiterate, you should listen to Clyde's version over and over again. There are absolutely things that Clyde does that I have not shown you, and I'm not going to pretend to channel Clyde. He was way too unique. But this is such a fun tune, and there are these cool little scoopy things, and it's just a really, to me, it exemplifies a lot of stuff that we talk about when we're talking about old-time fiddle music. There's syncopation, there's these funny little string crossings and scoopy things, and it's also just a really fun tune. So I hope you'll chew on it and digest it on your own. While I am waiting to see if anyone has other questions for me, I'll do my little bit of housekeeping. One thing to say is I do teach one-on-one online lessons. I love doing it. At this point, I really feel like I need to just completely rebrand the idea of online lessons and completely go all in on just fiddle coaching. So hat tip to Justin May, who's been having some fiddle coaching sessions with me. I mean, I've often sort of jokingly been like, oh, I'm more of a coach than a teacher. But like, I'm really starting to think I should actually change my website so that it says fiddle coaching. It's kind of like having a life coach, right? Like, I see it as a journey, and I'm not going to spoon feed you anything. I just want to help you overcome the hurdles that you run into as you're trying to learn on your own. So the way that I work as a teacher, coach, really is like, I want to be somebody that you just reach out to occasionally when you hit a wall and go, I can't figure out what I'm missing in this tune, or why do I feel like I'm in a bowing rut, or how do I work on my intonation, or am I holding the fiddle wrong, or like those kinds of things. Or if you want to have a person that you just check in with now and then, and you can play me the tunes you're working on, and I can encourage you to maybe try a different thing with your bow, or look out for how you're doing a rhythmic phrase, or whatever. Mostly it's therapeutic and cheerleading. And I am convinced that everyone can teach themselves old-time fiddle. I know that's crazy, but I really believe that everyone can, but everyone also needs help, and they need resources, and they need input. They need to know what to listen to and what to listen for. So I'm here if you want a coaching session. I'll put that out there. Also, another thing that I'll put out there for you fiddle geeks is I have stickers for sale on my Ko-fi page. My Ko-fi page is where you can tip me It's also where you buy tickets to workshops. And I have an archive now of workshops. You can buy tickets to previous workshops and watch them. They will be similar to this. I will talk a lot, but there will be chapters so you can skip around. Anyway, here's my most recent Fiddle Geek sticker. Can you see that? And here's another design. This is my handwriting. The original Fiddle Geek sticker was this shiny thing that says #FiddleGeek. I have 3 of these left. I will send you one. First come, first serve. So that's some Fiddle Geekery. Other Fiddle Geekery, if you don't already know, on my website, I have a whole page just of videos of me playing fiddle tunes at kind of a normal tempo, and then a moderately slow tempo, and then a really slow tempo. That's just a learning resource. If you use it a lot and you enjoy it, tip me. It, all of these places where you have to upload videos and have it look nice and all of that, it costs money. So you can keep the whole machine running by giving me a tip. Speaking of machines that need to be tipped in order to keep running, Slippery Hill, which is such an amazing resource. And every time I teach a workshop, I point people toward some kind of archival recording that's on Slippery Hill. And it's a really incredible website. So fun. You can search on there by tune name, by fiddler, by tuning. There are some regional collections. It's just really great. So if you're someone who, like me, uses Slippery Hill a lot, don't forget to give them a donation as well. Let's see. I think that's all my housekeeping. Let me see what questions have appeared. Paul, so happy to hear about you and your kid playing along on the tune. It is such a nice tune, isn't it? It's so sweet. It's got such a nice bounce to it. I have a request to play the second part a few more times. I'm going to go ahead and play the whole tune a few more times to end here, so hopefully that'll work for you. And also, thank you for the compliment, Sound and Fury, about the tune videos page. I'm so glad you dig it. This tune will go up on the tune video page sometime in the next 24 hours. It will be on there. So you don't have to come back to this YouTube live thing in order to review the tune. If you just need a little refresher, you can go to my website and just watch me just play the tune, no talking. And then I have this question. Do you try to start phrases on a down bow, and where do you place the beat in 4/4 time? Wow. Okay, placing the beat. I'm not sure I understand that. We might have to have a coaching session to talk about that if you've got questions about that. But as far as starting phrases on a down bow, I would say in general, I would call myself a down bow fiddler, meaning that the downbeat, the beginning of a phrase, I would be on a down bow for the most part. It's not always true. Sometimes I do something kind of squirrely and backward, which might be because I learned it from someone who was doing something different with their bow, or it might just be that that's how it came out. But the majority of the time, yeah, I'm starting phrases on a down bow. And that's why I was saying earlier, I was talking about, well, you can vary the bowing in these ways. You can put slurs in, take slurs out, as long as at the end of the phrase, you're doing that down, up thing, because then you're ready to go into the next phrase on a down bow. And you can do a lot of variation in between that first down bow and that last up bow. So please get experimental with that. I've got a question. What is your website? you can go to rainagellert.com, or if you don't know how to spell my name, which a lot of people don't, I also have the domain name fiddlegeek.com. So if you go to fiddlegeek.com, it will redirect you to my website. And on my website, I believe it says Fiddle. And under that, if you click on that, there are a few things that come up, and one of them is tune videos, and that's the page that you want as far as looking for the video that will be up soon of this tune and lots of other tunes. Justin is asking a process question. How much time do you spend listening to a recording like this before you start to tackle it? That varies. Like in this case, for instance, I believe that I got into this tune because someone was playing it in a session. I was over playing with Rafe Stefanini and Clelia Stefanini and some other friends. And it was either Rafe or Clelia or both, I can't remember, were playing this tune. And I was just like, it's such a good tune. And so I was picking it up just on the fly in the session, and then later on went and dug out Clyde's version and sort of tried to go a little bit deeper into Clyde's version of the tune. So I'd already played it. I already had the general idea of the tune before I started listening to Clyde's version. And really, I would say that's often what happens is I hear someone else playing a tune, or I'm playing a tune in a session, and then I go seek out the source recording. And so I sort of already have a jumping off point, and then it's a matter of listening and pulling out more detail and subtlety that I want from the source recording. Yeah. Does that help? Does that answer your question? Okay, well, no more questions are showing up. So let's end by playing the tune a few times. And yeah, then I'll make sure everybody's okay after we've done that. Just a smidge faster. How's it going out there? Hope you got it. Okay, so I think we're done, and you can look for the tune video version of this on my site, like I said, sometime within the next day. And I just want to thank you all again for attending this broadcast live, because seriously, I could teach a tune to just the abyss, but it really wouldn't be much fun for me. So I'm so grateful when people show up and participate, put questions and comments in the chat window, and get happy about a tune with me. Like, I'm teaching this tune because I love this tune. I think it's really fun. And so the idea that you're out there going, oh, this is a fun tune, it's like, that just makes my day. So that's fantastic. I guess that's it. We're done. And thank you again so much. Send me an email if you want to have a fiddle coaching session. And don't forget to give some money to Slippery Hill, and, throw some money in my tip jar too when you can. And happy fiddling. Y'all take care. Thanks again.